Hello, welcome to Matrix Live. I am here with Halfshot from the Bridges and Sorrow from the Bridges. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're both doing okay.
Yeah, we're sweltering in the warm heat of May.
Where in the world are you right now?
Over at home in Germany.
Ah, okay, cool. And Halfshot, you're at home in England, I think?
In England, in the south.
Yeah, the
That's
south.
as specific as I'm going.
You're probably more north than Zoru.
I'm probably actually more north than Benpo right now. Actually,
yeah, a little bit.
Like a little bit.
I remember.
A little bit more north. Yeah.
All right, why don't we do some sort of introductions? We're going to be talking about the Discord to Matrix Bridge, which is Matrix App Service Discord. But before we get to that, why don't we do a little introduction into who you folk are? Halfshot, maybe you can go first and tell us how you got involved with Matrix and when.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm Halfshot. I do Matrix things. I think I started in first year of university, so 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been 2015, 2016, did the GSOC for the Twitter bridge. That went pretty well, and apparently I've not left. I don't know when I was told to stop. I've not been told to stop yet, so I've carried on. At some point, everything will be bridged. Yeah, I do stuff for Matrix part-time, mostly keeping the bridges maintained. I tend to sort of do little bits of advising on how bridges should be shaped, but that's sort of my role. I'm now sort of a GSOC mentor for Kai, who's doing some bridgey stuff as well. So it all goes full circle in the end, and we'll train up a new load of recruits. It'll be quite fun. I think that's all me in a nutshell.
So I've always thought of you as the bridge guy. Like, why bridges? What's fascinated you about this?
Mainly because I like working with inferior protocols. I don't know. I just think that a lot of my conversations, it's all great to have this whole Matrix stuff, but it's no good if your community, who you talk to, don't use Matrix.
Yep.
And part of Matrix's mission is to be spread out and to use, and not to just go around telling everyone to use it, but to use anything. However, when I started Bridges back in 2016 doing Twitter, back then the landscape was much worse. There was maybe 4, 5, 6 bridges, most of them pretty early quality. So, but the vision was there. We had the IFC bridge with Slack, with Gitter, but it was all very early days. And I thought I could probably jump in and improve all that. So we could, and nowadays you see that we've got all the Tulis bridges, Discord bridge. And, these days it's actually fairly common to find a bridge for what you're trying to bridge into, unless you've got a really weird protocol, I think.
Sometimes you have a choice of bridge, bridge to platform,
Yeah.
Cool. Is that your dog?
That's my dog moving around, wondering why I'm talking to myself.
All right. So yeah, how about you? How did you get involved? Actually, I have a question that I want to ask first, which is, how do you pronounce Soronome?
That's a good question. Zoru usually only pronounces the first 4 letters, Zoru. Other than that, it probably depends on talking English or German, because German is also a native language for Zoru. English probably something just Zoru, so yeah.
Sorry.
Just like a silent E, just like Zoru.
Ah, Soronome. Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been saying Soronomi for ages.
Oh, Zoru actually says that. Zoru actually says that in German. It's Zoru just pronounced the E in German. It's weird.
I guess if we knew it was German, maybe we would have made it.
Well, it's not German. It's just completely made up.
Okay.
It's not any language at all.
All right, it's your own language.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So how about you? You've been not as you haven't been as involved in Matrix for as long, but how did you get involved?
Well, Zoru started using Matrix herself because she was looking for a chat for a messenger which did end-to-end encryption well. Tried out a few different ones like XMPP and Talks, but in the end stick with Matrix due to the user friendliness. And how to get involved? Well, Zoru already did a lot of programming, and then like when the need happened, like with a Discord bridge, Zoru started doing pull requests there when she was using it herself and noticed some bugs and wanted to have them fixed.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. So you You just started contributing.
Yeah, because
carried on. Yeah.
Yeah, because wanted to use working software on the so yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth pointing out that Discord Bridge was much worse quality back before Sorry worked on it. Their influence on the bridge is massive and not easy to perceive, but yeah, genuinely massive work since they joined.
Sorry just checked for the fun her first commits there, and it's like the first one was in February last year and was about fixing HTML escaping.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's go way back. What does it mean to do bridging? We talk about bridging constantly on Matrix, and I gather that it's the idea is that you can interoperate and you can send messages between platforms. But what does that really mean to the user? They're able to.
Yeah. So bridging in its simplest form, it's just your message comes in from one protocol, shift it onto Matrix in the most sensible format you can think of, and a lot of it is choosing the format. In the simplest fashion, it's moving messages backwards and forwards. Mm-hmm. But in these days, it's how you format it and how would you define what a conversation looks like on one side and a room looks like on the other side. Mm-hmm. And so I guess to a non-techie user, it's being able to talk to your friends on WhatsApp while using Facebook, mm-hmm. or things like that. And the eventual goal of every bridge is to be as simple as possible. So you don't even have to know if the bridge is up, if it's down, which one you're connecting to. You can just see your friends on one side, and you wouldn't know the difference if they were even on WhatsApp or Facebook. You would just see them as Dave, and that would be them. And you wouldn't even see what client they're using or anything. The eventual goal is to hide as much detail as you can and keep everything looking sane. I think I'm about to start barking in a minute.
All right, we can edit that or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that was quick. Well, that was very smooth. Okay, yeah, thank you. So the idea is complete transparency to the user. That's the real end goal. How do you cope with mismatched protocols? So if there's a feature that's just not present on the other side, what do you?
Well, we have to think about how we represent it. An example that we had for very long is that Discord allows message editing, which Matrix only has support now. And what we did with that is send a new, if someone on Discord edits their message, we actually send a new message on Matrix with the previous content and edited content and a link to their previous message.
I see.
We also made that a little bit more user-friendly, like if someone very quickly edits their message on Matrix, it'll just delete and resend it instead.
Interesting. I didn't know that part. Okay, so as long as it doesn't break the order, it will essentially replace the event.
I think it's fair to say with a few golden rules, things we don't do, like one thing is we don't do automated tasks on behalf of the user, which might change the meaning. So we had an issue, I think, back when we used to we might still do this, I hope we don't still do this. We used to have, you have emotes in Matrix, the /me command.
Yes.
I think we used to stick them in italics. And people used to say, well, that comes out looking like sarcasm on Discord, because Discord doesn't have an emote system. So we used to use italics in my naive system. And then someone said, but now looks, everything I'm saying is sarcastic when actually I'm performing an action. And I think we removed it and replaced it with a star. We did that, didn't we?
No, it's still italics, but your display name is all at the start.
I think I put a bug in there saying, by the way, this looks sarcastic. We have actually fixed it.
Yeah, I mean, but then the very nature of bridging means that there's going to be platform-specific things that don't map perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the thing about Discord, one reason I went for it, I'm horribly segueing into your next point before you got to it, is that Discord has a lot of features you can map to Matrix fairly well. We have a way of doing communities in it, and we have a way of doing channels, rooms. We even might do calling at some point. We have reactions, we have edits. And eventually at some point Matrix will be nearly one-to-one. So one of the reasons we picked this protocol, I did anyway at the time, was actually you can map it quite well to compared to something like another protocol, one of the simpler ones like texting, for example.
Right, okay.
That might be good for use. There are bad protocols out there that don't map to Matrix, but this one's quite a good one.
Right, because it's feature rich, in other words.
Yes, feature rich and happens to match a lot of Matrix stuff.
I mean, even what you were just saying about the edits, even in Matrix now, the way it works is you just send the new text and then a relate to field.
Yeah.
It overrides, or is used on the client to override, possibly.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's look at my notes. Okay, so the product itself is Matrix App Service Discord, and it is a layer on top of all kinds of other projects. So can you give any brief history of this project?
So in terms of history, I think I started the project as a means to talk to a couple of friends who were using Discord, and they wanted me to join their community. But I was a real hard Matrix user back in the day. I was like, I will use nothing else except Matrix. My phone only had Riot on it. I think it was Vector at the time.
I mean,
so I spent all this effort developing this whole stupid bridge for the whole thing. It worked well enough. And I was lucky that there is a large number of libraries out there do everything you could ever want to do on it.
Okay.
But that was actually the only reason to talk to a couple of people. It wasn't to dominate the world or to host it for other people. I didn't really want to give it to other people. It's just my own personal bridging needs.
Yeah. Okay. And it depends on Matrix App Service Bridge, which is also something of your creation, or was that?
Oh, no. So Matrix Bridge was written by Keegan. I think it's Keegan, or someone from old core Matrix days. It's a very simple JS layer, Node.js thing on top of the JS SDK.
Yes.
And it's all designed to do simple bridging and give you a few components to work with. I am currently maintaining it as part of my bridge maintenance stuff in general, but it's a bit old and kludgy now, and it doesn't represent today's bridging as well as it could. It's also not TypeScript, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to get away from it.
Yeah, so I noticed that the Matrix App Service Discord is TypeScript, and yet everything underneath it is not. So what about Matrix App Service Node? What's the relationship?
Yes. So, App Service Node sits on top of the bridge stuff to literally, I think all it provides is literally a API to let you talk between the home server and the bridge, but it doesn't provide any of the client service stuff, just the app service stuff. That's a very tiny library. And the reason it's not TypeScript just because it's old. It's a really old stuff. I think it pre-exists before TypeScript. It's a good idea. I remember having a conversation, I think, with someone who I won't name because I can't remember, I don't embarrass them. But I said to them, why did we not do TypeScript in the old time? Why are we doing something else? And I think at the time we were planning to use different, I remember maybe 2 years ago, we were doing different typing systems for JavaScript. Okay. But the organization never specialized on one. So today I think it's still JavaScript. But I went with TypeScript just because it's nice and it spots bugs for us.
Yep.
What is TypeScript? Anyone doesn't know, it's a typing layer over top of JavaScript to sort of provide. It does a little bit of the Babel style stuff where it translates nice TypeScript into rubbish JavaScript, but it also does a lot of typing to spot bugs and gives you a lot of stuff that Java and C# have in terms of good typing, because it's a Microsoft product. It looks like C#, and people might know I'm a C# person as well, but that's another project for another day.
That's definitely down the line. We're not going to bring it up.
Anyway,
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're going to be doing JavaScript, then you may as well be doing TypeScript. I mean,
yes, I would say that today. That's a claim I'd make.
Yeah. No, I think that's very fair. Okay. So what is going to be the change? So you sound like you're not impressed with Matrix App Service Bridge as it stands any longer. But would you just upgrade that to TypeScript, or would you re-architect your dependencies in order to have something new?
We are actually looking at switching away from Matrix App Service Bridge to Matrix Bot SDK. That's by Travis.
Yes, it is.
Also written in TypeScript. So that, of course, gives us the advantage that our underneath layer is also in TypeScript. So we have all the types within our app service. We already had the problem by now that we had to manually define some types that are used within the app service bridge, so that we can use them well within our Discord app service.
Okay, so moving to Travis's library, that would replace everything. That would replace the JS SDK and Bridge SDK and App Service Node. So that would actually simplify your work a lot to have that.
And the simple reason is it's no longer my problem if it's Travis's problem. No, it does move sort of the maintenance off my hands. the primary reason is it's TypeScript native. Oh no, one of the reasons it's TypeScript native. It's just better to have TypeScript libraries. As Sora said, we have a lot of what we call any types in TypeScript, which are basically black holes where it doesn't know the type. Whenever there's a black hole, there's a potential for a bug, and we just want less bugs. On top of that, the way that the Bridge SDK fundamentally works is every Ghost user you see in Matrix, which is a representation of a Bridge user in Matrix, has a JS SDK client behind it. Now, if you spin up hundreds of these things, it tends to spin up lots of memory. This is a fundamental part of the App Service Bridge SDK. We couldn't just change this overnight. The JS SDK, Travis's JS SDK is very smart. It's designed for Travis-style use cases, so as you know, T2Bot, he's obviously thought about this. I think in general, the thing about the Discord bridge is we're now targeting large installations more than we ever have done. Because we find if you target large ones, the small ones become not a problem. They naturally are performance fine. If you target large performance on larger installations, the small performance problems of smaller instances aren't a problem, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, okay. So, how does Travis's SDK solve the problem of not needing to spin up loads of clients? Because isn't Travis's SDK based itself on the sort of classic JS SDK?
No, not at all. It's completely written up from scratch, and it does a different thing where it doesn't create new. I don't think it creates new intent objects. Or I think because it's not reusing the JS SDK, it doesn't have any of the crypto stuff or all those hundreds of lines of code. It's all very specialized, simple HTTP calls.
Got it. Okay.
He'll probably a better person to ask on precisely how it works, but from what I gather, it just doesn't include anything extra that a bridge or bot doesn't need, which is surprising a lot. Like bridges and bots do not need lots of storage things, which clients need a lot of storage. If you're doing Riot, you need all these special storage systems.
I mean, for your bridges, do you not need things like caching, or do you just?
But we have our own special caching, things like using Postgres and all sorts of clever memory optimizations that we make. One of the things we did recently is we shoved everything we were currently doing into Postgres. All the long-term storage is now in Postgres and SQLite, because we found that the old JSON file schemas we were using were too slow. And generally speaking, we just did more caching optimizations. It's a bit more Synapse. It looks a bit more like a Synapse instance in the bridge at this point.
Really? Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, so is there something to be said for having a separate server? You know, a lot of this stuff is run on T2Bot, which is to say, it's just run on an existing Synapse instance.
Yes.
Would you better to run it separately? Just.
Sorry, do you want to take that one?
What do you mean with running separately now?
So have an instance where Synapse is not the heaviest thing on that server. More of the work is transferred over to the bridge, so that the home server becomes less of a general purpose instance and more of a pure bridging instance.
Well, Zora is not aware of many people doing that. Like in our help chat, there are quite a few people plopping in to have help setting up, and there's and it all seems so far that the people who do set up the bridge are all also have an account on the same Synapse server.
Yeah.
So they do also use that for personal chatting and the like.
I think it's also worth pointing out that a lot of the users of the Discord bridge currently use the T2Bot instance.
Yes.
I probably say close to 95% of the people who ask for questions say, "Oh, we're using T2Bot." But you know, we're happy to cater to both use cases. At the end of the day, I'm doing support for the bridge, not necessarily for T2Bot. In terms of a bridge-specific home server, I think it's sort of the question you were kind of making.
Yeah.
I know Travis is working on one in his spare time, which is again sort of the project I was working on with him on the whole C# worker stuff. Probably not terribly related to the Discord bridge, but there is stuff working in the background for just a bridge-specific home server. But certainly not something we'd be looking at. One thing we are doing is looking at worker support for the bridge, in that we will be splitting out the single bridge process into multiple workers. Because the Node.js supports the ability to run multiple processes that will connect to each other.
Yeah.
And we're planning to do that. So we split the Discord processing into one, Matrix processing into another, provisioning into another, you know, a massive hydra of processes all connected to each other. As it's the final goal for us for that sort of thing.
Yes.
And what's the timeline on this?
Well, there's already a pull request.
Oh, okay. So there's
we do have one pull request, and it's sort of me frankly hoping it will work. I think Sorrow will kill me if I say anything less than after 1.0 because it's a big feature.
Yeah.
1.0 is in a week's time.
Which probably
you're going to beat Synapse to it.
it's the workers and switching to the bot SDK are like the two big things we have currently, which we want to do, but they take a lot of time. And both actually currently have pull requests to them, which are just like work in progress, and that you can keep taking a look at it at where it is at and keep it up to date.
Yes, one of the things we tend to do with the projects is I tend to have a mad rush of a feature I want to make, and I'll spend all evening on like this one pull request, and then it'll work to a basic level, and then I'll leave it for 3 or 4 weeks, and everyone go, "When's this coming out?" Half shot. I'm like, "Well, that was ages ago." No, we have planned for worker support and stuff to come out soonish, but I don't stick timelines on things because we can't, because it's all part-time stuff. I have other bridges as well. I never stick firm timelines and stuff. I can say the next release will have the bot SDK stuff. The 1.0 release will have the bot SDK stuff, which is the next release after this one.
Okay. So, I mean, that'll be a big, that'll be a major structural change.
Yes. Which is, we're going to bump it for that reason, I think.
Yeah. We actually had some problems to switch to the bot SDK because of the storage we had for users and channels that used something that only the app service bridge had. And so we now made an intermediate in our currently, well, it's not currently, it's still in release candidate state, in RC state. It'll be released within the next few days. That will then automatically do the migration to Postgres, so that then we can migrate to the bot SDK.
Okay, that's a lot of infrastructural changes.
Yeah, a lot very quickly.
Yeah.
And how did Travis feel about all that?
Well, he's still got to upgrade to 5.0.0.
Yes.
He's 5.0, sorry.
Yes, there was a point where Travis is telling me he keeps running out of memory and CPU. So I finally chose to stop making so many features and start actually fixing the crap that we've written. So that's why there are so many performance fixes going into this thing. I mean, the bridge is what companies say at a beta level now, possibly approaching stable-ish. I mean, it's been out for, is it a year or 2 years? 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean, it's loads of people are on it. Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely it works for sure.
Yeah, so I'm happy to say it's probably beta close to stable. The reason I never call things 1.0 is because I don't trust myself to ever call something 1.0, which is a theme of this whole organization, to be honest.
I mean, we're not gonna be providing commercial support or anything for this. So.
Absolutely, no. Well, so Sorrow has a LibrePay, which if people want to donate to the bridge, I guess something we should probably mention. I don't take LibrePay donations because I'm perfectly paid for Matrix offices. Sorrow does a lot of the work on the bridge anyway, and tells me to stop doing stupid shit. So if you want to pay for the bridge, pay Sorrow on the donation stuff.
We'll put a link on that.
We've got to plug that one. But paid support doesn't really exist. Just drop into the room and ask your questions. You know, we're happy to support any sort of thing.
All right. Let's talk about, so we've kind of covered the status and the very near future roadmap, but what's the status when it comes to people actually using it? Have you got any stats that you can share around that? I know T2 bot, which say Travis is far and away the largest, but what about users and rooms and this kind of stuff?
I can read off my stats roughly, very quickly. So it's roughly 1.7K bridged room. This is T2 bot. We don't have stats for the whole network. That's actually a feature I want to write, sort of like a phone home thing.
Yeah.
I reckon we must have about 200 users at least running the bridge on their own instances. I reckon. Really? Probably. Well, I'm saying roughly because there's about 200 users in the room who come and go. 176 stars on GitHub. So I'm going to make a guesstimate and say it's roughly about 200.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I reckon so. Film was a dispute. Please tell me because I'd actually like to know. But we're going to make a feature to actually count these up.
Sure.
So in terms of T2 block, we've got about 1.7K bridged rooms and 1,500 channels, unique channels that have been bridged across.
Why would there be a discrepancy there? Does that mean that there's been multiple bridges?
Yeah, some people bridge their channel to multiple places, but generally speaking, they don't.
Okay.
If you have one Discord, if you have one Discord channel, you can bridge it to multiple matrix rooms.
You definitely can if you want.
if you want to.
I mean, it breaks horribly, but you're perfectly welcome to do it. In terms of total number of bridge Discord users, it's 110,000. That sounds about right. Yeah, quite a lot. In terms of bridge guilds, Discord guilds are basically what they call servers, communities, etc. That's 591, which is a fair amount. 67,000 messages in the last 24 hours on T2 block, which is again quite a lot.
Yeah, this is a lot.
And monthly active Discord users, 27,000. Which is still pretty cool.
Numbers, honestly, this is really impressive numbers.
I'm surprised it holds up, and I think it barely does. But you know, it's in use. Is what we can probably comfortably say.
Yeah, this is fantastic. 27,000 MAU is terrific, really. Yeah. Okay. All right. So my last note here was what's the future / roadmap, but I think that you've covered that pretty effectively. The big things that are going on right now are performance improvements and relating to use of the Postgres database, and then a migration to Travis's JavaScript or TypeScript rather bot SDK. Yeah, so that's a lot of infrastructural changes, and that's really.
And then of course workers after that. So,
wow. Cool.
I mean, yeah, the bridge is solid, plenty for your use. If you want to use Discord, it's fine. At this point, we're just fine-tuning, improving performance, literally whacking on more wacky ideas. I think at this point, like, workers are just silly. I mean, a bridge having workers to me is completely ridiculous. Then again, we're doing it. So we're just adding things.
Well, T2bot is also silly, so.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, T2bot is also ridiculous, but, you know. It's a good place to be, to have this sort of point where we're happy at the bridge and now we're just whacking on performance fixes. That's good.
I mean, yeah, it's a very impressive place to be. I think we're about done with what I had. Is there anything else you folks want to say? Well, you've got this window to Matrix Live.
Hi to my friends and family. Hi, water cooler.
Yeah. The most happy place on Matrix.
Yes, indeed.
If you want to try out the Discord bridge and like you're a bit shy to configure it and stuff, just drop by our room. We're happy to help.
Yeah. Again, all of these links in the description. Okay, then I'm going to say thank you, Soru.
Thank you.
Thank you, Half Shot.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye, Matrix Live. See you soon.
Bye, Matrix Live.
Bye.
Bye.